take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols.
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I'm your host, Adam Dunn, and I got live in the studios. I got two studios now. Live in the studio, I got Cole and Jaron from New Millennium.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Welcome back.
We appreciate it as always.
You guys are like now becoming continual guests, which is good.
Yeah. Because
then, we can talk about the same shit over and over again. No, we don't. We can actually change it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
And also Sam's hiding in the corner there, so if anybody... if we have any technical problems, we're just going to reverse blame it all on him because he's the most talented guy in the room right now. So that's how it goes. And who knows, if we get the Skype back up and running, we may have some call-ins. And then you really don't know what the fuck's going to happen. We had a great week last week. The Breeders Mega Bash went down. I think we had eight different breeders on that show. It was pretty good. Nice. 4 in the studio, 4 on the phone. People were starting to reach over the table. Things were getting a little bit heated, which is exactly what we want in a breeder show, of course.
Sure.
Cannot have anybody agree on anything. But it was apparent to me at that show that we definitely need to now create we definitely need the Mr. Soul Colin Gordon Ethos Genetics show. That's going to happen for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't agree on anything, which was exactly what I need. I was like, yes.
That's what I'm looking for.
That's what the worst is when everyone's like, yeah, whatever he said. And like, that is not a show.
Yeah, it makes for lame radio.
Just different mindsets, huh? They were not on the same page?
Not on the same page. Well, the whole thing is, what was interesting to me, and probably anybody out there who listens to the show or who follows these guys, is that Mr. Soul did a whole show dedicated on non-feminized and why he doesn't do feminized, and then lo and behold, we're less than a year later, we're here talking and he's just preaching it. So it was, and then you got Colin, who's already doesn't need to be told about feminizing, and then boom, 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 and then it was just like, well, this is interesting. And then of course JJ, we had JJ in the studio, and him and I are from the old school camp of just leave that to the kids, let them play, let those guys do that, because for us, it's more just kind of continuing what we're doing, keeping our line straight, and not getting all confused and trying to do whatever's the hot new thing
right
at the moment, because unless that's what you really want.
Sure.
If that's your passion, then that's your passion. So anyway, that show was pretty good. You guys can go back and listen to that one if you're interested in breeding in any capacity.
Well, and speaking of breeding, Adam, have you been doing anything new, fun, and weird lately?
I have, actually. What did you set this all up?
Well, no.
Did James Bean call you? Did James Bean call you and say he never talks about his own stuff? Yes.
No, he didn't. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what we brought along as well. But I did hear that you've been getting into it again and been doing some more stuff. Yes. Sorry, got a little mic adjust there. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, you go.
So yeah, why don't you fill us in? I'm honestly curious.
Okay. Well, last year I started a project, and we're planning on doing a sort of launch in December of this year. So it's kind of takes time always.
Absolutely.
But what I decided to do, because one of the things of being a guy connected to a company, it's like you become that company. I'm sure everybody who's involved knows what that is. And so it's like and with breeding, it's even more apparent because you're kind of like, you're on your little island, and that's the way it used to be back in the day. It was like, oh, hey, I'm on my island, you're on your island. We might do something, but it'd be very rare that we would totally collab on giant things. But now everybody's just like,
everybody's collabing,
and and I also felt a little left out too. I was like, hey, I want to collab too. No, but it was it's also just finding a breeder that you kind of jive with or something. And so I had Bodie on the show, and he had given me some seeds, and so a couple of his other crew, and when I was on the East Coast, he has got his guys everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
They had given me some seeds. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pop some of those Bodie things. And so I popped a bunch of different things from him, and I got some keepers and I got some males out of it that were just phenomenal. So I was just like, okay, this could be something interesting. So I gave him a call. We talked. And one of the things, I just thought, okay, since this is what I preach, I better do what I preach, right?
Sure.
So called him up, asked him if it was cool. He was more than, he's actually the only breeder you probably don't have to really ask because he's so mellow and cool about it. He's just like, yeah, sure. I mean, the main idea is not to F2 stuff.
Right.
Like, oh, wow, I really like his Snow Lotus. Boom, F2 Snow Lotus. Hey, I'm here. That's not
Not the goal of the project.
Yeah, that's not what people are looking for. But when it came to, just using something and progressing it forward. So anyway, I had this thing. It was a jasmine cat piss from him, which was a super silver hash plant. Super silver times 86 hash plant.
Nice.
Or 88 hash plant, sorry. And some keepers out of that. And also had Snow Lotus in it too. And then the thing that was funny was we were growing Blockhead at the same time from Breeder Steve. And it's a kind of a weird plant and very distinguishable.
Sure.
It grows very curly, weird leaves and not very dense and big, but not, it looks big but
right.
visually, but it's not going to be your heavyweight plant. But it has very distinctive smells and looks. And actually, it was a kid who was working with me, and it was when he was trimming. He's like, I don't know, man. That jasmine cabbage has to be related to the Blockhead. So we didn't even know it had Snow Lotus in it until we went back, talked to Bodie, and then it made sense. It was like, okay, that's got Blockhead in the original cross. And so anyway, we picked a male out of that, and the thing that was interesting about this thing is it's just consistent. Everything that we hit it with got shorter, thicker, and vigorous as hell. So it was like, okay,
perfect.
Well, it's kind of what I want because there's so many people who are like hurting themselves by putting out like OG based stuff that's just not vigorous. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you want. Well, that's the whole point of seeds, is to get vigor. That's trying to.
Why are you going back to seeds if you're not looking for vigor?
Right. So anyway, these Jasmine Cap. We have about 9. We have about 12 crosses total that we do. We're going to pick out 9. And the idea though is to not sell individual packs of these things because I don't want to it's just like a one-off.
Sure.
So it's really like a classic collab one-off. I don't want to become this whole new. I don't want this whole line to like become this whole new thing.
Right.
Thing is, it produced a shitload of seeds anyway, so everything that I have a good backups of. But what I'm going to do is release 100 packs of like breeders packs, and you got to buy the whole thing.
Wow.
So they won't be cheap, but there won't be many of them. And then the idea
That's
also,
pretty cool, though,
that is super cool.
Well, the thing is that I talked to Bodie about it, and he's, I told him, I said, look, I want to give you 25%, and he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, even better. I want you to tell me a fucking charity to give it to. So that way we got this whole like thing going where it's a collab with a charity base, limited run, but you got to buy the whole thing, And
That's awesome.
So it's a different idea. And I mean, I'm sure people will be like, well, I just want to buy that. I was like, okay, well
then
sorry.
it's not for you.
But I'm going to give away a lot of these anyway. So that the people who can't buy the big packs will get them. But the way I'm going to do it though is it's going to be all anonymous. I'm not going to let people know what anything is. So when you get it, you're going to get them all.
It just is what it is.
Well,
Put it out there.
You're going to get A, B, C, D. I'm going to do it that way. That way, when people are giving me information, it's not like, oh, dude, a lemon. It's like, because the thing is, you say something and people tell you it back to you, and it's like weird. So you're like, I shouldn't have those tones at all. Like, oh, it's so, like even with bubblegum, that was a good example. Everybody would come, oh, dude, I got this one. It smells just like Bazooka Joe. And I'd be like, it's not even why it was called that. You know what I mean? That's like, it doesn't have anything to do with that. So you're just kind of putting it in people's heads. So I figured the idea is I'm just going to give away a shitload and sell those 100. But the 100 are also the cool part about it, I think, which was my kind of reasoning to do it in the first place, is I wanted to personalize each of these things. So it's like you buy all these seeds. There's going to be 9 varieties with 33 seeds in a pack. So it's like a breeder's thing. You can go back. You can go back to the well and you don't have to do them all at once and then realize you don't have them.
Right. No, okay.
And
so
then kind of open
like 300 seeds.
Yeah, like 275 seeds or something like that total. And then the idea, or test 72 or something, but
whatever.
And then I'm going to also give a little bit of pollen with the original male. So you get because I just used some stuff that was about a year old, and I got, pretty much as close to like maybe 80-90% success rate, let's say.
Wow.
So I know it's viable.
Sure.
And I got some fresh ones. So while I give these first ones out, we'll put a use date, used by
Sure,
1
used by.
year. Here's 1 year, and it should last longer. But the idea that then the guy whoever buys this pack gets a little bit of pollen from the original male, so that he doesn't have to imagine what the male was like. He can make a few thousand seeds,
Sure.
and then be like, oh, okay, cool. There you go. So it's just kind of like an open-ended project.
That's awesome.
man. Yeah,
And
it's
then,
really cool, actually.
and then I told Bodie that we got to personalize everything, So when you get your box, there'll be some gifts from Bodie and some
Right.
photos.
Right,
and some,
right.
So it's kind of like the idea is that when you buy this thing, you get one of 100. You got there's that many other people out there that can do the same project,
Sure.
let's say, but it's up to you. You can do whatever the hell you want with it.
Right.
It's a really good idea, and I imagine, obviously I'm no breeder, but I imagine, like we were saying earlier, with collabing and finding the right people, there's so many different methods and ideologies and
Right.
directions on it. Finding the right partner and finding one that you actually get along with and are and on the same page with is pretty tough, I bet.
Yeah, and just knowing that, like, the thing I like about Bodie in general is that he's a world traveler, and he's gone to these places. He's used other people's stuff too, and he's used elites and things like that. But what he did was kind of funny, just because of his way of doing it, is take some crazy land race that nobody's got, slap it against something that people do know,
Right.
maybe take it to one generation further, and then he kind of stops, and then that's like he kind of already does it. Like, he gives you this sort of open-ended project too, because he's not like trying to take it to F5 or like stabilize each line, because he's got a shitload of things, but he's got a good eye, and that's all that really, it's like almost like you send your friend into the jungle. Go to the jungle, get me some good weed. You got to trust that person's opinion, because that's what it's all based on. It's based on their interpretation. And so anyway, that was and the project is called Everybody Loves Bodie, because everybody loves Bodie. Everybody loves Bodie. So that's going to be released officially at the Emerald Cup. But of course, seeds
Another
here
nice
now.
segue.
Of course, nice. Of course, seeds here now will have the well, pretty much all of them.
Right.
But they'll have
Right.
the first ones available, and then we'll put some on auction. And they'll be numbered too, of course, which then how that gets, right?
Right.
I want 69. I want this. I want 66. I want that. That's my number. This is my. Oh my God.
Yeah, holy shit.
It gets nuts usually, but I think the idea though is just to kind of bring it together, and I always like the idea of kind of arts and crafts in cannabis. I always think that goes well together.
Sure.
So give me a project where I'm like, yeah, and I get to make the pack. So I'm going to design a very cool thing. And then the idea is that every breeder has his own style.
Right.
I talked to JJ about it, not recently, but before. And with him, it's pretty obvious, tackle box
Right.
full of fucking seeds and some extra cool gear that matches the tackle box, whatever, like things like that. Just like kind of like, vibe it out.
Totally.
And every breeder kind of gets everybody gets a kind of different style. So yeah, Bodie's is going to be first, and then the idea at the same time, it's kind of reverse, of course. I'm going to put the Bodie project out before, at the same time launch the one in December, but I'm also doing a Sage line where we got a male recently, that's like matches up with this kind of obscure sage that my friend from the East Coast picked up, and it was like, it's just like this weird green onion pheno kind of pops up.
Green onion peanut.
And it's just like, what? And it has that linger. It has all the
Bringing back the sage, man, for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah. So we're gonna kind of do so the line is called Sage Master Select. That's
Right on.
And then that's what the Everybody Loves Bodie is, the first gen. But the actual Sage Master Select line will be available in December.
Excellent.
And there I'm also playing with a lot of different things right now. So, and we're doing some back russes. Still got to test them out.
Right.
that's-
Oh, yeah, all that stuff.
We're in that phase right now.
Excellent. Now, are you still planning on broadcasting a couple days of the Emerald Cup and doing that whole deal, or what's your plan for the Emerald?
Well, the Emerald Cup this year, since unfortunately would have been next week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of glad, because we were swamped too. I was like,
Right.
man, how are we going to pull this off? And also the heat and
Yeah,
just the
so
combination of it, because it's one of the best things about December Emerald Cup. You know, the vibe is like, you can, you know, I love it because I can sell a shitload of
Yeah,
jackets.
hoodlums all over the place.
Everybody's wearing a hoodlum because they think they're cold, you know. Coming out of here, you're like, this is fucking nice.
This is awesome.
Yeah, so for me, the December formula worked really well. And Seeds Here Now has got a big presence there, so that in combination, we're going to do Adsy there. So you're like, this is a reverse show. He's now asking me all the questions. I'm exposing all these things that I never talk about because I've always got people on who are just like, they're more important. But now,
I guess you're more important. So here we are.
I should have brought you on the show earlier. But no, we are planning on doing Adsy there and giving everybody their, you know, warning, obviously, which is now, I guess, being official. But
here we go.
In general, anybody who is already a winner or even pretty much contacted from the last ads, you can expect an email. If Mitch gets back on track with this. But in general, yeah, we're going to be also giving the guys from the Emerald Cup their own sort of number of applicants coming, because I mean, they have 900 entries or something ridiculous. So to get the top 20 out of that is already huge. Plus, we've already got, pretty much everybody who's inside of Caesar Now's corral there. They're going to be probably half of them are going to be entering too. So the idea is to showcase what we got, bring in people that outsiders that we don't even know of, a couple of, hopefully a couple surprises usually.
Sure.
And you guys planning anything road tripping for your company? Or what?
No, we'll actually be out in the Indo Expo here in a couple of weeks. I guess that's the first weekend, like the 5th and 6th of August. We'll be out in Portland, 2 days for the Indo Expo.
I think we'll be out there for that also.
Yep, that'll be good. We're definitely excited for that. Portland's becoming a bigger and better territory for us. It's a great town. It's a great community. Oregon's a great state, so definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, you want to be successful in, Oregon's like, to me, California is sliding northward, and it's like kind of slowly sliding northward. Where it's like the growing is becoming more.
Oh, Southern Oregon's the new Northern California.
Yeah, and it's like climate wise and just in general, because of the fact that there's just too many people in Cali trying to do the same thing, and they're all getting zoned out and wasting money and time.
Right. It's definitely a tough territory. I mean, Oregon does Oregon. You know what I mean? They're not looking for a bunch of outside stuff right now.
How's it passing all of their? Because I know they're a little stricter on.
Great example.
Yeah.
Great example of the hurdles.
I know that they're more strict with pesticides. Obviously, that must transfer to nutrients too, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, across the board. No, they're definitely. I mean, we're fully registered out there. We've got different commercial users using it, but
yes, product registration is much harder out there than other places.
And they have a couple big players out there too, obviously, that are sure not really interested in hearing about other nutrients coming out. Really? Do we need that? I don't think we need that. I think we're good.
Exactly.
Good.
Oregon does
some
Oregon.
of the big boys are definitely out
You
there.
guys getting any big gardens up there already? Or
we are definitely working in several commercial gardens at this point. So little by little, we got some outdoor rec gardens that are going to be coming online in the fall, and some indoor stuff. So we're working slow but sure. David in a Goliath world, takes time.
Yeah, and speaking of gardens, I was in a garden the other day and I was looking, at their dosatrons and their, and looking at the kind of, and I wouldn't really say cookie cutter, but close to it. You know what I mean? It was poet lamps with the glass, which I wasn't really impressed with. I was like, really, that's kind of
still doing glass, huh?
Yeah, those, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. They're like kind of like, what is that? What's going on with? But just safety, whatever. But everything was spaced properly, rolling tables, the whole 9 yards. But it was like, after everything was said and done, and they had, goat in there and strains that I was very familiar with, and, and that literally had buds on it like that big, which it does, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's that kind of a plant. It can pull it off.
Right.
So they had some impressive growth, and they had some pretty decent looking, they hand trimmed everything, and everything was kind of like taken care of the whole way, but, at the end of the day, it was like the flavor wasn't there, and it was kind of like, I'm looking at the food, of course, and I'm looking at, and I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus because that's not what we do, but I personally never really jived with cutting edge as far as the the feel of it. You know what I mean? I like the company; they were really cool. They sent me stuff, and we were.
John's a good guy.
I tried everything, and I was just kind of like, oh, there's something strange. You know what I mean? And it was like, but these guys seem to have dialed it in. It looked great, but at the end of the day, to me, it's always the flavor that's really like kind of key to the whole thing. And
Of course, man. If it doesn't taste good, it's not good.
so tell me how come? Because I do use New Millennium, so I know that it's not because it's organic, because it's not.
Nope, it is not organic.
Right. So how is it pulling out flavors that, whereas these other ones are sort of like killing them or something like that?
Our answer to that would for sure be number one, the high chelation technology that the chemist uses. He does stuff and knows how to source things that others do not. And again, through stuff like the fulvic acids and just making things very available, and just his different technologies and ideologies, and the way he understands plants is different than most different companies go, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He's very applied in his methods. That's one thing that I'd say, too. A lot of guys out there want to kind of work it out on paper, if you will. He's always been the kind of guy that'll have an idea and will just do it and see what the hell happens.
Do you think it's the fulvic center doing it? Because
I think I'll tell you what, that ruby, as you have said before, you called it the silver bullet last time we were on. Yeah. Is it a great product? Absolutely. Should everybody be using it regardless of what they're doing, because it'll condition their rhizosphere and help uptake anything they're doing more efficiently and effectively? Yes. Do I think it's one of the secrets of the line? I do think it's one of them. Right. Well, I think it is too, and I also think. The weird. Now, tell me if this is true or not. Somebody was telling me this, and I was like, I don't know. They claim that a gallon of the ruby weighs less than a gallon of water. Is that true?
I've heard that myself. I have not done the true test. So I can't say yes or no, but I have also heard that. Yeah.
You heard that? Okay, so he's not totally out of his mind.
No, not totally out of his mind. I haven't.
It might be like 1 millimicrogram or something. You have to have a really good scale.
Right.
It's not going to be like grams off.
But like you're saying, if it's at all lighter, I mean that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So and that would. Sort of explain where it sits on the chain of things, because it's so light and kind of very mobile, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and obviously we get stuck on that every time. Every time you guys are on, I'm like, all right, back to the fulvic. Yeah. So before we get onto that subject, how close are we to seeing the whatever it is now. What is it called again?
The fuller?
Carbonara. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually quite close. Go ahead, Cole. Yeah.
Tell us.
We're hoping the next 4 to 6 months for sure.
And explain the product.
It is a carb product as kind of the base of it. It's definitely going to be, just like the ruby, a very, very diverse source of carbs and ingredients that all work synergistically to make the product what it is. He's been developing it for years and years, and all of us have kind of beta tested it a little here and there, and it's a phenomenal product.
There's I think he allowed 5 sugars to be listed on the label. I've never heard of any of the 5, and that's 5 of, if I remember right, 27 I think are total in there.
Something crazy in there.
It's one of those products too. When you pour it out, you go, there is way more than is listed in there. Like there's all kinds of goodness going on in there.
Right. Yeah. No, it definitely seems like a amino rich, or it's from what I heard. It's a lot of aminos in there too, right?
I think it's a very complex product as far as the carbohydrate market goes, for sure. Everyone that loves the carbo load and other products, which are good products, this should be a whole step above that. Again, with as you're saying, a whole different level of ingredients, not just the carbs. So, but definitely lots of available building blocks, which of course aminos are building blocks for proteins. So yeah, lots of different stuff. Yeah. Well, for me, like whenever I'm like, I love the sea green. It's one of those products that I'm always like, for sure. Like, yep, good product. Just you use a tiny bit, and it's like a Brady Bunch episode where the washing machine kind of like, how much soap you put in here, or whatever. I don't know. It's like all of a sudden it's like it's foaming over the top of your stuff, and you're like, that works. You know what I mean? But I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know if that means anything more than my mindset. Is it what's working? But for some reason, I feel like that action speaks a little more of a sort of biodynamic, kind of almost organic. Sure, and just biologically active. Okay, back to fulvics again. I got these old. I already asked Bill about it, so I already know what's up. But
or the guys who work for me actually asked because they were all nervous because it was like another creature was kind of growing inside of there.
Oh
It was
yeah,
just like,
that snotty looking stuff.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was getting kind of.
It means you got a good batch.
That's what he said. Too. Yeah, that's what I figured. You guys have all been trained really well, obviously.
No, it is. I mean, it is so biologically active. Yeah, shit fucking grows. Lots of stuff's going on there.
And truth be told, we also use the product religiously. So
Yes.
we have seen the same things
Yep,
ourselves.
I open
and
bottles
it's,
regularly. Yeah, I mean, every
And people
day.
freak out. Well, I think now here's a question though. What? So going back to my walkthrough on this spot, which, like I said, was super on point. Everything was really nice. Just unfortunately that the flavors weren't really there because, in my opinion, the choice of food was a little bit weak. And the thing is, I even asked him about it before I smoked it, just because I hadn't even seen the product finished yet. I was just looking at the setup and kind of anticipating and being like, ooh, I don't know, how come you're using that? And, obviously the main thing was, because we use these dosatrons, right? So I'm looking at, like, thinking about, recommending New Millennium for them, and I'm like, snotty fucking vulvic thing, and their system doesn't work. And
No. I'll tell you. I mean, I have a guy that runs it through Blue Mats. Straight up. I mean, the full line through Blue Mats. So, we could talk to Chris down at Dosatron and get a setup. If somebody wants to set it up for New Millennium, we'll set it up for New Millennium, no problem.
For sure.
Yeah, and you don't think any of the products are just not consistent or conducive?
No, because
to being pumped in?
they're silica. The stuff even in the bases, that stuff that's floating in there, it's a silica. It's a precipitate, right? So
Yeah.
it holds in solution. It doesn't fall out of solution.
Right.
Try and grab that. Try and filter it out. It's nothing. It's smaller than talc. It's almost not there. You can just see it with the eye.
And what about, like, now it's summertime, so what about temperature and stuff on those things? 'Cause
I mean, anything you should be trying to keep it cool and out of light. Yeah,
obviously.
Ruby, yeah, you put that out in the sun, that shit's going to really get fucked up. Lightning, same thing. That shit is going to do not. I mean, you don't want to get those products hot. No, you don't.
And I mean, by hot, you mean like over 70 or so, really, right?
I mean,
80s, obviously, like the.
I mean, 80s, 90s, you're definitely getting into a bad zone, real bad zone.
Yeah.
And I mean, and again, that's anything.
I mean, I
that's
try to
going
keep
be
stuff.
biologically active.
If I had, like, for personal and stuff, I always had a fridge for all my stuff, just because a lot of stuff you'd use a little bit.
Sure.
And then it changed so fast because of the more air and warmer temperatures and swings and stuff.
And it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, and you'd be like, ooh, how come it's like, was it black like before, or was it just sort of like a hue to it?
Right. So in particular, those are the two products to watch out. The rest of it, for the most part, handles everything pretty well, whether it's cold, whether it's hot. But in particular, the Ruby Fulvic and the Lightning Start can be a little dicey with too much heat.
Okay. Well, Lightning Start, I don't think you'd ever put into a dosatron anyway, because.
No, most people aren't doing.
I mean,
most people aren't dosing in veg. It's a veg only product anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for like one, because you only use it a couple rounds anyway, right? You wouldn't have to use it that much more.
Yeah, it's veg only. I mean, I use it every veg water.
Okay. Well, then maybe you would dose. Maybe have to dose that one. So the other stuff that you guys have been doing, coming up with any kind of things on the horizon, or what's
well, of course, and I think you've messed with the Fuller a little bit as well, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely on the horizon as well. I mean, it's a piece at a time. Everything is really heavily beta tested at New Millennium. That's the thing that we really pride ourselves in. Nothing. I mean, even to the frustration of people, it doesn't happen quickly, I mean, you can look on Sam's shirt there, and it says established 1999. I mean, the stuff's been around a long time, and even longer than that in Neil's mind. Right. So it's taken a while. So it's been very, very heavily beta tested. So they continue to heavily beta test stuff to trusted people that
He's gonna
we
have
know.
his 30th anniversary when everybody like, dude, I just heard about you yesterday.
Right?
30 anniversary.
30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, but but the thing is it's tried and true. It is time tested. So that's the one thing I'd say is it's going to be out, but it definitely we get it out and we really use it for a while and beta test it heavily before it hits the market.
The Carbo product will come out before the full year.
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, we've got the label and everything for it. I mean, it's we're on the verge.
Is it Bo's face?
That was pretty good.
It should. I mean, it should be.
It's all candy cane. Now it looks. I mean, it's all sugary. It's like a Willy Wonka. It's
pretty badass. Actually.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. I'm stoked on that label. All the new labels
And
have been quite good.
I don't know if you guys get to see the proofs. You must have seen the proofs on the thing on the hoodies.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna look good.
Oh yes.
I mean, simple's better, right? Just keep it simple. But
That's right.
those look really good. I like them. So
Good.
and who's the guy behind the logo? The new logo.
Well, there's
Because I mean, these guys changed up. This is the third logo change.
yeah,
now?
the newer marketing is done by a whole company, not just by like a single person or a company in Denver or anything.
And they came up with the flip over or whatever thing.
yeah, yep. All the new marketing, the graphics, images, every bit of it. Yep.
Right. Because it is like one of those things where there's so many new brands on the market. When you go into grow shops, you're just like, you kind of see where people get nudged off because of some super slick, thing coming in. Like those Emerald guys with their thing came in.
Yeah,
I mean,
your game's got to be top, man. I mean, it's
but at the end of the day, if it don't work,
right.
It's
That only lasts so long.
That's why Budswell still has
still there.
a kid's drawing on the front,
Right.
where you're like, okay,
A little bat drawing.
Is that a bat? That's what I guess. Like,
I'm pretty sure that's a bat.
nice. Okay, so and in case anybody out there wanted to call in, and now our Skype is running.
Skype's
It
running.
never was down, right? It was never down. It was always running smoothly. And that is 720-310-8237, which is TADS if you're old school and you want to like look at those letters and try to figure that out.
Looks like we might have missed a call from James.
Oh, we did? Oh, well, James, you can call back in again because for some reason, we're locked out of it, but it's up and rolling.
Torching.
It's torching hard.
Yeah, that rosin's delicious.
Smoke some rosin at him.
Of course, yeah, sure. Rosin and pen?
Yeah, rosin in a pen. You haven't seen that before, have you?
Fresh flower rosin in a pan, man. It's hard to do.
Yes, we may have done it ourselves.
Very nice. I freaked out on rosin for a little bit there. Was
hard to
Oh,
work
yeah,
with,
speaking of which, last week we forgot to talk about, and then I got someone, the fucking Leafly just bit that shit right out from underneath me.
Oh, shit.
When we had James here last week, we were going to call in. We were going to order a rosin press from Walmart, like on the air, and then wait until it came in, and then do a test with it. And then we've totally spaced it out because we had all those breeders here. We were like, doing all that shit. And then I looked on today, and I was like, motherfuckers, Leafly put like Walmart has a rosin press, and we ordered it. I'm like, no, damn, that was like they were listening to me. This fucker so must be working with.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing. It's
funny.
like it's working though. People are imitation, right?
No, but in the end of the day, too, it's like
Let me see it real quick, Adam. It needs primed real quick for you.
that's just lower. Again, it all go down to the
Yeah,
bottom.
it's part of the as you were saying, the rosin just gets sticky and it's hard to work with.
It's a
you
little
gotta
bit more
get it-
difficult
Get
to
it
work
hot
with.
and then it starts ripping.
I got you.
But the best part about it takes fire flour to make fire rosin. I mean, there's no cheating in rosin, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a great way to test product along the way too. Like if you can pretty much squeeze it and see quantity, quality, all that in a nutshell before it's ever even been like.
Oh, yeah.
It could have been on the plant a couple days ago, or it could still be on the plant. You could just take a bud and wait a couple days till it's the right.
Yep,
thing.
just that little bit. Yep. No, we've definitely been enjoying the rosin. That's for sure. That is for sure.
Are you guys using the thing the machine that you have from the shop, or you guys have something else?
No, I've got one of the Rosin Tech twist presses just for my personal use. A small little plate, good PSI on it, and just for the limited stuff we'd use for personal and friend use, it works perfect.
Yep.
And that's a hand cranker.
It is, yeah. It's a twist press. Achieves just over
it's a twist,
5,000
it's a
PSI on those little 2x4 plates. And again, it's not for production, obviously. You're not
And
going
if
to
you're-
go to scale with it. but
And
it's-
you can do your own book binding too, which would be perfect. So
Fantastic.
when you get really bored, you can make your own old school books. People be like,
Right,
"What is that?"
right.
And you're like,
It's a book binder.
called a book." What? Mind blown. You mean letters, words on a page? So, are you guys planning on? You're just doing this for fun, though, really, right? So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. We're
Well,
just,
and I mean, again, we're a David and a Goliath world. We better be showing some good flour, or nobody's really listening to us. I'll be honest with you.
right.
So we have to have good people that have used it, that actually know what they're doing and can see the differences in it. People like you, and then we have to go around and say, hey, look, we're growers too. We know what's going on. We know how to use these things. We're here to help you with it. And at the end of the day, it grows firehouse weed. So,
Right.
and we obviously brought in this little bit of sage and sour that we were talking a little bit about earlier, and definitely wanted your opinion on it, and the alleged story behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we ran into the same guy.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was super impressed at the show.
As were we.
And I told him I'll take a cut, but I never got one. So there you go.
Well, we can take care of you. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. But in general, it's funny because it is one of those. It's this is like reminiscent of a pheno that I had before, and like I was saying upstairs, it's not that it pops in either direction, which is nice because sages can be like a tiny bit of sage in a joint of other weed. You can still taste the sage in the joint.
Sure.
You know what I mean, it's that kind of a thing. So it's very dominant, and with sour, it's impossible to hit the fucking target. You know what I mean? It's just like dude, you could shoot at it all day long, and you'll never make everybody happy. Everybody, it's too
this, too that, not enough this.
Well, and it's like a good example is like when Rez came out with all his sour crosses. They were all about 80% there in some departments, and then a range in the other department. You know what I mean? It was like, and you could never get all of them. You know what I mean? It was like impossible to. It was like a rigged machine or something where you'd be like, how come I can never get a jackpot on here? It's like because there's just not in there. There's no cherries in there. There's not a single cherry. There's one cherry, and it kind of jumps between 3 different fucking slots. You know what I mean? And you can never get the effect / flavor / taste and smell. You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like there would be one of those things would be out. It'd be like, it smells like it, but it don't taste like it. And sometimes, I can kind of taste it, but I don't smell anything. Anyway, so this and I bet this thing grows like a beast.
It's super stout.
Structure on it's unreal, man.
Yeah,
it's a badass plant, dude. It really is.
Right.
I mean, it's hitting on all levels. I love it.
Because the funny part is that it's the opposite of what a lot of other. I mean, if you didn't grow it, if you weren't a grower and you'd go like, oh, it's the sour that makes it all like raw, and it's like, no, it's actually the sage that makes it really stiff and like work and grow nice, and then the things that the sour would lend to it is the combination of the feel of it, which is kind of also one of those things where with a lot of plants have a sort of papery vibe to them, and that's like, so that's what you don't want. You're like, it's like if it's like paper, it's not good, but if it's like soaked in, like you feel like it's like kind of like a soaked rag almost, where it's like kind of like it's like fleshy,
all
and stuff.
oily and gooey,
and fleshy and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what this one has. Yeah, I'll roll a joint. How's that?
Yeah, please do. I'd be honored.
We could talk further about it. But the trike development on it was really nice, and it also has this. The thing is, what's nice is that it picks up this sort of silver color, which is a sage attribute also.
Yes.
Sour is always bright and
even in veg, it's like you can see across the room. It's all weirdly silver. It's like a little silverback gorilla in there.
There's this purple and silver that like you can pick out from across the room. Man. It's
and the thing is, it's there's a purple like that kind of floats through the sage phenos. That was always like people would visually go for ones that are purple, of course, because it's purple, but it actually delivered, some times too.
Well, and I'm not a huge fan of purple strains. Never have been. I always thought they grew kind of weak. They were bland. It was all about look. That's the beautiful part about this one. It's like shit. And like you said, it's in a really nice middle range. It's not one and it's not the other. It's truly a bit of both. And it's very perfumey. And even on the taste, it's like a little bit grape soda-y. It's just, it's got a lot of depth.
Right.
A lot of depth.
Well, I mean, it's one of the ones I have out of all. The one I get one of the best feedback is Sage and Sour. Certain strains you just get a lot. MK I get a lot of good feedback. Sage you get a lot of good feedback. But Sage and Sour, it seemed to be like the one where I could guess the person was going to say Sage and Sour before they'd ever say Sage. Like, just by the way they were like, dude, you know what I'll tell you? You know which one was really good? And I'll be like, what, Sage and Sour? Like, how'd you know that? And I was like, I don't know, just because it seems like the one that people would get surprised or something. I don't know. There's like,
and I love the high because it's strong enough, but it is energetic. I mean, it's really, it really hits on that sativa end without just being just sativa, Which I mean, I'm a Kush guy. I love the bottom end of things. I like getting good and stoned. But this shit definitely makes you want to jump out of bed and fucking go do something.
Well, I smoked some Zeta on the East Coast that was like, it was weird because it was like, when I smoked it, it gave me like literally like putting on an old glove or something. You're like, whew, that felt. Oh yeah, there it is. It feels like it was so, and it was really weird because it was like, weed that I'd smoked a million times, but when you smoke in a different place, all of a sudden it actually works. Like, like you're like, hey.
Oh, cannabis can be very situational.
How come it's working like so good now? All of a sudden, and I think it was a humidity too, though. Like because when you had again, like everything smoked different, and it was like, oh, it was a little bit harder to roll than
Hey, you're ripping it apart instead of breaking it.
All of a sudden, had to roll little balls and
build
the joint out of little things. Not the same. I mean, the same weed in Colorado would have shredded, and it was just like, oh, okay, well, that's a different animal right there, and just seemed like everything popped off a little bit better, which was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, the story behind the flower rolling here is that it was between 5 and 6 years ago at the clinic, the mutual friend that we all have at the table here acquired some flower from the clinic and found a random seed in the thing, sprouted, of course, and here we are. And that's kind of what we wanted to ask Adam: is does he, is it from his lineage? Does he like it? Is it possible? Is it plausible? You know what I mean? What's the deal?
I mean, I went to the clinic about a month ago and did a walkthrough and saw the sage that I'm guessing it's from the same camp, as far as right. If it came from the same group of people, and their selection was good because I was pleasantly surprised that it was not the Foco sage cut again. So because I would be like, that's not
seen it.
It's not. Yeah, it's just not. It's not. It's not like somebody popped it, but no, it was like, oh no, we popped seeds, and so they had selected a much more sativa influenced one. And spicy, but not necessarily as sort of sandalwoody as the one that I would have. Like if I said, well, it's kind of like it's in the right side of the fence, but it's not quite in the like ace in the hole. But I didn't try any sage or sour from them, so I'm not 100% sure what whatever the seed came from. But if it's strong, yes, and if it's not, no. Just kidding.
Ask me after we smoke it.
Like, this is terrible.
Well, right, and that's what I was curious. Do we think it's a real, self-pollination, or is it some other errant pollen in the room? Or?
I mean, the whole thing about all the elite strains out there that were pre, Amsterdam, or maybe not even pre-Amsterdam, but not just from a pack of seeds, which is funny now because now. What's considered elite almost and what's considered like wow and rare is the stuff that I was actually selling when I worked at Sensi because I was there 89, 90, 91, 92. So I was like those years are like considered like whoa dude I got a 1989 Sensi blah blah and it's like yeah I definitely sold it to you because that was the only guy working. I was the only guy working there at the time. So it's really funny because back then as I sold certain packs to people I could literally feel it. Oh man, this guy got the good ones because I always look through the packs and kind of pick out the best ones for him and be like, double check. Let's see a bad seed on this one, and I'd go through and so certain guys, they'd spend a lot of money, and we'd sit down and we'd go through all of them, and I'd be seeing them on the counter going across, and there'd be certain times when people get like Silver Pearl and Black Domino and one of the new ones that they had, which I wasn't even that impressed with that one when it first came out, but and this. Silver Haze and all these different strains and when Neville came back they were all new and everyone was getting like you could tell like you could see all the packs came in and they were like fuck
fresh beans
these seeds look way better than the last ones and the super skunks always looked fucking killer like just giant cantaloupe sized you'd be like whoa those are huge
big beans.
And silver the other one which was NL5 and skunk one that was Shiva skunk that one was like also like I knew that everybody who bought those went home and just blew it up
right
but it was also kind of like because I worked there it was kind of like so I never like got seeds from them hardly I was just
now
like,
it's all the elites
now I should like man I probably should have when I was there be like hey should I get a couple seeds along the way but I literally only got a few packs of seeds from them in the beginning and then after that I just kind of started once I did the bubblegum thing I was kind of realized that they didn't care what I was doing and so I wasn't really gonna be like trying to mix up their stuff, because one of the things they told me was that everything is from Sensi, you know, and I was like, well, that's kind of not a very outwardly way of thinking, because there's shit out there that's not from Sensi. I can guarantee you it's in the fucking, you know, like a friend of ours, Nick, he's got some Bhutanese strains, and I've never seen them have any Bhutanese strains, so there's new shit right there. You know, I mean, there's places out there that are new, and there's definitely places that have weed that haven't, well, I wouldn't say they haven't exploited, mostly have, but they haven't really hit the scene hard, and, you know, so I was kind of bummed out. This is in 1990. They're telling me that nothing, like they've done it all. It's all gone through them. Anything good that's out there is from them.
Anything that's been going. That's interesting.
And so I was kind of like, you know,
no, there's got to be some other shit.
That's literally why I went and did my own thing, because I was like, well, and then I felt really like I can't work with their stuff, because if I start bringing any of this, they're gonna fucking come back and be like, hey, I told you there's nothing out there, you know. But then that's what bummed me out, is I'd go out.
I was like, you see that coming.
But I would go out and try to find shit, and like when I found out, like a good example is the hog. You know, I was all excited. I went out. My friend, you know, my partner back in Amsterdam, his best friend's dad was from Tennessee. Grew this hog strain, brought it out with them. Was grown in the backyard, and that guy was kind of on his way out, and this other kid wasn't really a grower. And I was back in Cali, and he's like, "Come over and take a cut or something." And I literally, like, told the story on the show before, but it's like there's like this plant about that big, and it's all, you know, fully flowered, and got pretty good sized buds for a tiny little plant. But it was also that December or January weird double crop Cali style, and he had it real close to the fence, and you couldn't see it because it was tucked in down here, and it was all like covered in dirt, and it was like, and so then
ratty ass.
So he gave me a cut that he had taken, and it was about as bad as that the plant looked. So I wasn't really impressed when I saw it at the time, but when I grew it, it was like, wow, this shit's strong. And I was all excited, and then, you know, then anyway, we won the cup with it. It was like, okay, this
must be good.
Yeah, but it grew like shit in a way, like compared to other stuff. It was
sure.
And then, like, just recently, like a couple of years ago, 2015, I got a message from a guy who was like explaining to me where it really came from, and
it's probably some Johnny Boone shit if it's from down there.
and everything was like
Cornbread
sounded
Mafia.
like, I'm going, wow, I'm getting closer and closer to this. And then it was like, oh yeah, and it's just, you know, it's from Sensi, and I'm like, no, don't say that. You know, it was like, again, it was like from like, again,
it's
like
a bad dream.
Yeah, it was just like a thing that was bought maybe 6 years earlier or something, you know what I mean? 8 years earlier. And I was like, what? I mean,
It's not near as cool.
Not at all. No. So it was, but it was an NL, and of course it's NL5, because NL5 seems to be the most, you know, like renamed plant out there.
Yeah, most renamed plant that exists. I would agree with that.
Well, Flow maybe is getting up there too. In Colorado,
Flow is for sure number one, I feel.
Number one, you think?
Yeah,
more?
I mean, that is...
I mean, OG is really number one, obviously.
Yes, that is the clear number one.
And,
of course.
now we don't know, you know, now that's gotten even more ridiculous. But
well, did you guys...
But when it comes to one plant, yes.
Did you ever come to a complete conclusion, not that I think there is one for the record, but on the OG Gnome project? I mean, did that just kind of like, it got so far, like, what do you do?
The problem with the OG Gnome for us was just money, because we, you know, nobody was ready to do it for free, and it was like, okay, well, how much? Oh, start talking like 10, 20.
You're like, oh.
You know, it's like, okay, so then we asked some sponsors, and then sponsors were like, maybe, and then what do I get? And it was like, well, you get to fucking find out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, you get to see what's actually going on. Is that not cool enough?
And then it just wasn't like, we're not going to. The problem was then it was timing, because we also felt it had to be at the same, because they all have to go in the same plate at the same time. We have 96 spots and blah blah blah, and you have to fill them all up, or you got to pay for them, doesn't matter.
Right.
And so you're like, wow, that's kind of sucky. And then it was, you know, price per thing, and then we did talk about it later with Phylos, and then it was kind of like, but then we have to agree on whose information and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, so then we're gonna
get on the same page.
Yeah. So then we're like, we don't do all that work for that, you know. Then so at the end of the day. It's out there. It's still it's something we love to do. And
the OG Gnome project lives.
Yeah, well,
on some level,
it does in my mind, just like it does in Neil. It's like
it's there.
since 2015, the Genome Project never ends. Well, it never got started actually, but that's a
I mean,
stoner.
you guys tracked down a lot. I mean, it was very interesting though, even just the word of mouth story.
We have more information that's going to come out, and there's definitely more layers to that.
Oh, see, so it does live. Now you're fucking with me. It does live.
It does, but the actual genome mapping and that whole part is,
Sure.
is the financially difficult part. Like, I'm having a hard time getting sponsors to pay me every month for
this
shit. It's like trying to get someone to pull 5Gs out of their pocket for something that they don't know exactly what they're getting out of it besides.
Right.
And I also think, it's not like they're the only guys out there. There's plenty of people doing stuff. So
Sure.
just got to figure it out and make it work for everybody. And also the thing is, I'm more interested in the story than because I also don't. I mean, I don't like when things get to forensic sort of situations, because at that point, it's cool, but I also feel like information is like. Not to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be misconstrued, but it will definitely change before it's ever even been done.
Right.
So, like, the reality is certain things are going to be cornerstone. We know that.
Sure.
And there's going to be a lot of layers to that, and there's going to be a lot of butthurt people. We already know that.
Right.
That's
the
kind of
truth.
that's all everybody's waiting for, is that little phase.
No, you were wrong, dude.
But then after that, it's almost like, I don't know if I want to be that guy who exposes all that, because at the end of the day, there is a little coolness in the mystery, in the mystery of it all, and the fact that a lot of people just don't give a shit anymore. It's weird.
There you go.
People have gotten to that point where they just don't care.
They just don't care.
And I'm like, okay, there's definitely core people out there, a few thousand of them or whatever, that'll be like, I really gotta know, and I gotta know, and I want to know,
and we'll all know eventually.
But actually, from what the stories that are developing from it, and I've got. We had Alec Anderson on the show, and so I didn't know about him before. When he came on, and we had we had Matt confirm, and then so this is starting to make more sense. Okay, now we have the guy who actually put the bean in the ground. We know that.
Okay,
and that's
a great start.
That to us is more important almost than the rest of it. But then at the end of the day, it's like, well, wait a minute. So where did that bean come from?
Where'd the bean come from?
Exactly, and so that has been tracked down, has been confirmed.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah, and hasn't been brought on the show yet.
I was going to say, no need to reveal.
Hasn't been brought on the show yet. So because we can't get to that part of the agreement yet, of some of these people just don't
want to.
They don't want people. They don't want to know, and they don't get it 100% too, because at the end of the day, they just did something and they didn't realize that they did it, and now all of a sudden it's like.
And there was no thought process in doing it. They just did it. It was a bean they put in the ground, and
and
fucking A.
And it was, but there's the main confirmation part of it all, which made me go like, ooh, okay, was without anybody saying anything, when I called Alec and asked him about this person, he didn't know the name right off the bat. He's like, no, don't know the name, and then so it wasn't like that's the guy who he actually knew. But when it came to the location, and it came to the names of what it was, and it came to also a few other little details, he was like, "Oh my!" He got like, you could feel the color like drain from his face.
He's like,
that's it.
That's it. That's the one.
The spot, and that's the guy. And oh my god! And so the reality is, it was like there is a traceable thing now back to where that seed came from. And now we can get an idea of lineage, and that's why I want to get this guy on the show, because it's kind of fallen into the zone that we thought, which was a tropical variety, like a real tropically kind of variety crossed into an Afghani, which we kind of knew that already.
Sure.
And nothing works like Southeast Asian strains when it comes to high anyway. So we kind of all. And they're also Hermy prone, and there are little things that were like,
all these clues.
Probably those are the things anyway. But I want to get this guy on the show and kind of do a real, breakdown, so it's not just me still speculating. Because, like I said, the weird part about this whole story is that it came from another angle, from another friend of mine who's part of the whole Kush line, anyway, and he mentioned this show to that guy, and that guy never heard of it, of course, and he said, yeah, they're, because it kind of sounds like you're just describing this, and it was like my friend was the investigator to figure out that this guy might be the guy,
right?
And was like, hey, I think I might have the guy. I was like, whatever, like, sure. And then when it kind of came to that
Click,
whole thing,
click, click, click.
yeah, and so the reality was that this guy actually kind of saw it 10 years ago, trademarked everything and everything. So he really like was kind of on that tip. So at the end of the day, I think I hope he's going to come on the show, and if not, my friend will probably come on the show at some point, represent him or something like that.
Nice.
And we'll get to the real bottom of it, which to me, again, like I think that's the more fun.
Well, the stories are more interesting anyway, as
Fun
far as
part.
I'm concerned. I mean, it's like, yeah, like you said, we can get to it. It's kind of like, you know, we could sit here and argue about somebody who won the 1996 World Series, and fuck, we could talk about it for a while, or somebody could pull out a dumb phone and the conversation's over.
Right.
And so in a way, it's great to just keep the conversation going,
Yeah.
you know, and keep the story going, rather than getting to that definitive point where it's like, oh, well, I guess that's that.
Yeah, well, if it
It's
is
kinda
that,
boring.
if it is that's that, and there's no real story beyond it, but when there is that story and it keeps getting more elusive and weird, I think that's cool, because like I'm stoked when at the end of the show, all of a sudden I'm like, really? I didn't even think that was ever going to happen, you know? And that's
Sure.
Right.
and there's people out there now who know more than any of us know because they were there, and it's just like
Right.
that's why I even started doing this podcast, was because I realized I'm pretty sure I could clarify a bunch of shit for a bunch of people just because I happen to be there.
Right, you were there.
And now it's changed. Now people are starting to give like, it's like when it goes from like, oh, it was a pound to it was 100 pounds to it was 1,000 pounds. You know what I mean? It's like the stories. Whoa, and people are giving some people way too much credit, or not giving credit where it's kind of due.
Well, and I like you bring up the point again too. Sometimes people are doing things that they weren't. They were doing it not knowing they were doing it. It's all looking back on it. It's circumstantial. It's just right place, right time. Shit just happened. They were there.
Did you guys watch that Long Strange Trip show yet? Or?
I have not watched the whole Long Strange Trip. I've read I've read Long Strange Trip, and I've read just about every definitive book on the dead.
Yeah.
Have not watched the doc yet, though.
I've never heard of it. What is this?
It's from Amazon, I think.
Yeah, it's a new definitive.
It's like a 6-hour.
Yeah, 6-hour Grateful Dead documentary.
It's like going on a tour, bro. It's 6 whole hours.
Yeah, man, get ready to live. But it definitely goes through the whole. I mean, just the scene, how things got brought in, and a lot of the interesting parts.
They did
as well.
they did a good job. They didn't do much about like the kind of original, like the first tours and stuff. They kind of skipped all that. That's funny.
Well, they skip all the acid tests and everything. That's
no,
boring.
they didn't do that part. They skipped their like a little bit of their first European tour and stuff.
Oh,
A few
okay.
other parts because they didn't have much to show.
Well, 72, there's just not a lot from it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's not. I mean, playing at the pyramids, all that shit. There's not a whole lot.
That's why we had Tom Salter on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was the guy that when they got there, and the other English guy who was their manager at the time was friends with Tom, and that's kind of where that all started. But
Yeah, because that was even a bit serendipitous, as I understand it. Just how even playing, and how it all kind of went down.
Yeah, but it was interesting to watch how, like, same sort of deal. It was just timing and place. Like those
Time and
guys,
place.
they didn't realize at that time that they were doing anything, and now all of a sudden, that's also kind of what created such a behemoth of a fucking
Yeah,
thing.
part of the fervor. Yeah,
Yeah, and
part of the myth.
when you watch
mystery.
the documentary, you're like, oh, okay, well that. Yeah, I see exactly where, like you're like, oh, okay, well here it is, 87. When I graduated, I was on to heavy metal and shit. And I remember I had a couple of pins, and I had a few tapes that, but I was just like, whatever. I was like kind of over it, and then moved to Europe in '89, and then the tour came over there.
Sure.
And I remember and I had people coming to my spot. And I was just like, really, the dead? They're over here now? Like, Jesus! Like, I remember I was just kind of like, I was like one of those guys. And then my friend Keith, who was going to come on the show at some point to do the bro show at some point, but he'll bring up the story when he's here. But I'll just I'll reiterate because when I watched the show last night, I was like remembering. I was like, oh yeah, August. What was it, like 13th or something like that? Yeah. And I was like, I remember the day because these kids were living. We had this spot, and I had my speakers all set up on this sort of porch area that was kind of connected to their area, and they were renting from me, and they would put out their fucking dead little box and play like crappy tapes, and I'd be playing all hip hop, and we'd have a battle out there, and it was just like this garble of, and then the other guys upstairs were doing like techno.
Yeah, that's some European techno shit.
So the combo between techno, hip hop, and the dead just was like a big swarm.
Big cacophony.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. And so anyway, they left town, went on a big long bike ride, came back, and I had just found out about Jerry, and I was like, the bearer of bad news. You know what I mean?
Sorry,
it was
guys.
Like, exactly. I was like, and then they were just like, "Don't fuck with us, bro." You know, and I was like,
We're going into hibernation, man. Fuck
and they were,
you.
better not be true, you know. And then like,
it's true.
And then I hear like 10 minutes later, like, "Whoa,
Wailing coming from the adjacent flat.
yeah. So it was interesting, but yeah, it's a pretty good documentary. But it was also just very much like you watched it and you were like, you felt very familiar with the people that were on it because you were like, oh yeah, you know, we're the ones on drugs, hanging out, having fun at all these other shows. It was the same old thing, didn't matter,
Right.
Whether it was here, there, or what. But yeah, it was. You never know exactly what you're doing, and now with people trying to do stuff, that's when there's no magic left. You know what I mean? It's
No.
like they're just, man, this is how you do it. I heard this is how you start a seed company.
This is how you make a movement. And how many? I mean, my God, you get on Instagram and it's like, Jesus, a slick little logo, and you got a new seed company.
It's ridiculous,
A little
man.
pollen
It's
chucking,
literally
got a little
ridiculous.
Smef 1, Smef 2s. I got a seed company. This is cool.
Too many, man. Too many.
Yeah, I mean, I swear there's more seed companies than people on Instagram.
Yeah, it's exactly on the time schedule that I said. It's like about 5 years ago. I was like, you watch, in 5 years, there's going to be fucking thousands of seed companies, and
Boom.
it just happened like that. But it's good though, because at the end of the day, the more independent, like as long as it's, you just got to look who's behind them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then it's always been the same way too, though. Like when you went to the Cup every year in Amsterdam, it was one moment where you could actually see who's breeding what. You know what I mean? And for us, it was always kind of fun because even though we were been in the game a long time, we're still like a lot younger than a lot of the other guys because they came in, like, you know, local guys,
Sure.
older, but they got money, tried to get in, kind of did a bunch of crappy moves, came up with shitty names and shitty stuff. And you'd be
Shitty
like,
name, shitty
and they make
genetics.
money because they don't care, and they just fucking sell to all tourists, you know what I mean? But they never got it international anything,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And then like Nirvana tried a little bit. They had some decent stuff, but they also just tried to undercut everybody on everything, you know?
Right.
So it's always going to be different styles, cheaper. People actually have a little heart. People like Serious Seeds who don't, you know, are breeders. You know, he's a falcon breeder, so it's like, oh, that's cool. You understand how to breed shit. That will kill you. Like, so you got to be pretty good if you're a falcon breeder. It's like,
Yeah, that's
I was like, who kills the falcons that are not good? Like, you just go
right.
up
How
there
do
and
you select said falcon?
what do you do? Go for just like, hey Falcon, how's it going?
Oh, sorry, bud.
Sorry, pal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can.
Yeah, that's the dark end of it that they don't talk about.
right.
Falcon breeding.
That's
That's a thing? I mean, holy shit.
Well, the fact that he's actually like, takes that seriously, you know, and even dog breeders and things like that, they understand.
No, but you're right. Understand
look at
character. Yeah, they're looking at it on a whole different level. I mean, and that's, you know, you talk about, and Cole and I both have a background in horticulture, but you talk about like a wheat breeding project, for example. You're talking about minimum 1 million subjects. More specifically, you want at least 2 million individual to start with,
Right.
okay, to then go through multiple years of selection, end up with about 7 to 10 of them to go out to 10 years of field trials before you end up with one.
Mm-hmm.
1 out of 2 million.
That's
So
not pollen checking, man.
that ain't pollen chucking, guys.
Yeah, and I mean, nobody's really doing that in cannabis at this point, like, seriously. And if they are, they're like I said earlier, they're not the guys who are understanding. They don't have time to hang around and get high and fucking figure out what other shit, because
Right.
they're just too busy making spreadsheets and inputting data and thinking that they're understanding because the plants are bigger or, you know, waxier.
Sure, and I'm not saying there's not something lost in that. No, I would agree with that.
And
But
there'll be a mixture of the two that'll work. You know what I mean? If you get that
For sure,
guy
for sure.
and the crew, which is like the golden ticket for anybody who's out there who thinks they're going to get in the game, is usually like somehow they manage to be that guy. Like, dude, quality control right here, bro. Like,
Right.
you know, let me do that guy, and that happens. I mean, people.
Yep.
Sometimes you're just like, what? How'd you get that gig?
I
want that.
right place at the right time.
I want exactly.
I mean, that's, you know, but again, you know, what's luck anyway? We're hard work and determination meet, you know.
Pretty good.
So it's one of those things. I mean, you gotta keep cranking. But it's a definitely a you have an interesting story with going over and being back and being around and definitely being in the right place at the right time for a lot of those things, and being able to see some of it go down.
Yeah, and then the idea was definitely didn't know it at the time.
Of course, again,
It
you
takes
don't.
20, it takes 20 years to figure out you're in the
that
right
that was
place.
magic
Yeah,
because you weren't making magic at the time. You were just grinding it out, doing your thing.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too that was interesting was when I was there, I always was the reason I thought one of the reasons I stayed there and didn't come back to America was that for obvious reasons because of the fact that the work I was doing I couldn't do, but
Sure.
just in general was every day you woke up there you felt like you're on vacation. You're like you're an American living in Europe, so you always had this kind of extra way of looking at stuff, and people would be like, "Oh, I never thought of that." You're like, "Of course you didn't, because you guys all went to the same school, and the same
You
shit."
never left the town.
You know what I mean?
You're in the same flat.
And I'm sure if a Dutch guy came to small town America, he'd be like, "Why are you guys going in this way? Why don't you do this?" And, "Oh my
You
God,
blew my fucking mind.
How did you think of that?" It's like, oh, because then where we come from, that's what we do. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So a lot of times it was just like literally stating the obvious because they just hadn't figured it out yet. And that was the weird thing about there too, is just because it came down to the guys who grew the most weed didn't smoke weed. Nobody smoked weed there. Like everybody that I knew didn't smoke weed. So I'd be like, what? Like I'd be meeting all these growers, and they'd be like showing me like fucking hundreds
All of a
of
sudden,
pounds.
you're like, let's fire it up.
And I'd be like, light it up. Oh yeah, I don't smoke that. Like, what? Like this is crazy. And they'd all be smoking shaggies, which is rolling their own tobacco and smoking that and putting a little bit of hash
The
in,
tiniest little
like,
bit.
sprinkle, and they'd be like all pussied about it. And so, and then I'd be like taking weed and putting hash in it, and they'd be like, oh my
God.
So it was like very easy to sort of step out of the ranks there. You know what I mean? It wasn't that hard to.
Back then, you were doing that, just full weed joints with hash in them, just blowing their minds.
Yeah.
Like, what is this dude doing?
Like, oh
And then I
my.
did, when then I was doing
Wacky American.
and then I was making the hash joints out of hash, like flattened, making it with the laminate and peel it and put the weed in it and roll the hash around that and pop that into a down stem from a graphics piece and then smoke that in front of some Dutch guys, and then they'd be like, then their minds were blown. They didn't know what the fuck
It was over.
I was like, what is going on?
This guy is bulletproof.
But it was just a matter of having the product there, and that's one of the weird things too. Is like we're about to have our 25th anniversary next year as THCs, as the start of our companies and all that stuff. And so for me to so then when I'm telling people that, it's like they're like, dude, I'm like 27. I was 2 years old. I was like, oh yeah, kind of forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that all we really got to do now is repeat like the things that worked in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of those things were like when I did them, I was like, this would work so good in America, but right here nobody gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Like they just did not care. So I'd be doing all this stuff and being all excited about it, and they'd just be like, fucking hippie, and I'd be like, no, dude, this shit's amazing.
Man.
So that's one of the reasons we started our own store and did our own, because we're also
So
trying
fuck, I'm going to do it my way.
preach hemp to people, and they didn't kind of get it, and you're like, the fuck, what don't you get? But now Holland is the number one producer of hemp, in Europe, for hemp products, not necessarily hemp, but other
Now, are
places
they doing
grow.
some of their own hemp production as well, or just
Oh, yeah.
importing it all?
No, they do production. They got about, I don't know, they had like a couple thousand hectares when I was left.
Which
That
is a
was-
shitload compared for that country's tiny. So.
Yeah, and they produce all the, they produce a lot of door panels for Mercedes. So a lot of the inside door panels protect, like the stuff when you open it up, and sometimes it's like cloth or other stuff. They make that out of hemp. It's soundproof and works, doesn't splinter. If they get into an accident, it doesn't turn into anything that can hurt,
Yeah, I can fuck you up.
And anyway, they crush it with that, and they have a few other products that they're making, and so they're also doing production in Romania and other countries. They but as far as the Dutch are, they're definitely on point with it. But when I was there, it was like, and that's all hemp flax, which is Ben Drunkers, so it's Sensi seeds. So it's the only guy. So it hasn't it all goes back to Sensi.
It all goes back to Sensi. Damn it.
God damn it.
No,
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And Ben's awesome because he's one of those guys that literally got arrested, I think, about, I don't know, like 30 or 40 times or something like that when I was working for him. Like, just, damn.
Jeez.
Guy would, he was always, because in Holland it was always like, who's the owner here? You come with us. Boom, you're arrested.
Right.
And his shops were always pushing the envelope in any way, shape, or form, and they cracked also advertising and shit like that. They cracked down on, and he'd be the guy who would push the limits on everything.
Nice.
What you got to do.
What you got to do.
But the same problems here as they have there when it comes to advertising. Speaking of which, we got to do some advertising. Whenever you're ready. Because we've been talking for a while. It's weird. It's 4:20.
Whenever you're ready.
Oh.
Perfect time.
Perfect time.
Everyone can just...
How's that? What do you think of that Sage and Sour?
It is good.
It's nice, huh?
Yeah, it tastes...
I like the smell in the air too. It's nice and it's got that nice perfumey, just that nice smell.
Anything
in the air.
Sage has to have that. 'Cause
Yeah.
otherwise it's not really...
It's not it.
It's not
I
it.
definitely enjoy the cultivar.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so guess what we got? Oh, Mr. Jeremy Silva. We got to get him on the show recently, anytime soon, because we haven't.
Great stuff.
It's been a long time, and the man is a knowledge base of like no other, and his staff is also super knowledgeable. So if you ever need to get any amendments or any hard to find organic products, he's your source. You can get due short. We found out last week that they are hand mixing their bags. I mean, you're getting like it's artesian at that point, right? That's like
That's kind of crazy for sure.
I don't know if that's just because they don't.
There's a lack of mechanization, or
no,
just
but
kidding.
apparently they have guys in there that just are in there powering away and just
Just
mixing
getting her
that shit,
done.
getting it done. But you can always go to 877-855 soil, or was it? Is that it? Was that right? Soil.
Sorry.
Oh, you're all over the place.
855-877 soil.
Oh yes, yeah. Somehow it's like it's ingrained
You're
in my head.
yeah,
It's like
nice
it's like you
work.
guys with your new Millennium. It's like, I'll let you do your own anyway. So it's way easier while you're here. Jeremy will answer all calls, or his staff will, and you can also go to buildasoil.com if you want to get their products online. And the best part is their delivery is like on point. So. I always think it's weird when I think of soil in the mail. It's like, man, poor mailman. It's like, I need to order some carbon filters too, please. Can you bring them in? Can you bring them right up to the top?
Right around back,
Just
please.
bring them up to the top floor.
Oh shit!
And also, I don't know why he hasn't called in yet, but he should. Mr. James Bean from Seeds Here Now, our last week's sponsor of all the craziness that came through. He left this behind too. He's like, he liked where it was. He said, just leave it. And I was like, fine. You get prime. You get the
Your
prime
premier spot.
prime real estate here. But you can go to seedsherenow.com and check out the top about 34, 35 breeders that they got, U.S. breeders. And you can also go to Seedsaholic if you want to check out their auction site. And if James calls in, we can have him tell us all the crazy deals, but they always have it's pretty much always a deal. It's always a
You just go to the site and click on sales. It has
it'll-
all of them right here.
all of them.
Bam.
There's so many. But he may just drop in. You never know. This is actually in an hour. Well, he usually does the 420 James Bean, man on the scene, whatever whatever you want to call it. Gene on the scene. What was it? Man, I don't know. He had some crazy.
I don't remember what it was.
Some crazy title, but you can contact him. And one thing that's great about these guys is just like everybody who works with us or everybody that we work with sponsor-wise, all super easy to work with companies that have great policies. His policy is if you don't like something from him, just get in touch with him and he'll replace those seeds. And that's a pretty damn good deal because, as we all know, he's not stupid about it, though, too. He's not like, hey, don't you do this every day? Because he gets plenty of those guys who are like, and then you got to send photos and all that. So,
Oh yeah.
Well, I did it with my
We deal
seeds,
with it.
with my seed packaging when I first made it. Like on the first day, I think I released it, or like it felt like it wasn't the first day because he must have bought it but it was literally in the first week. Somebody hit me up and was like, "Oh, I got the seeds," and I didn't send them in the mail. Somebody else
Right.
ordered them from another company who sent them in the mail. They got them and they were broken, and I'm like, "That's physically impossible, dude." Because it just can't happen. There's no way. And then he sent me a photo, and it was pretty obvious that somebody opened it up and like hit it with a hammer or something like that and smashed it like right in the middle of the thing. And I'm like, okay, sure, right? And then I was like, okay, so how did this happen? And then they were like trying to explain, and then I was like, send me another photo. And then I got another photo, and you could tell that they put it in like a vise or something and tried to like bend it. And
Damn.
Holy shit!
But it was like that's how it is. I mean, it was designed to be like crush proof, 100%. And so, when you have a seed company of any sort, you pretty much you get every kind of
Get it all.
combo of fishing around, trying to get fucking free shit, And sometimes you just do it anyway. Fuck it, here, have them. If
Well,
they're,
and I
if they're
mean, in
creative
this-
and funny, then it's cool. But if it's like, I've got some malicious ones too. I got people who would do it, and when our people would send them new stuff, I'd find out that they would just sell it. or
Sure. Oh yeah.
something.
Well, we see samples on eBay all the
And
time.
they have shops or
It's
something.
unfortunate, man.
Yeah,
That's the truth, right?
yeah, we see it all the time. I mean, and here's the unfortunate truth in this day and age, Adam. It's like if somebody likes your shit, they might tell 10 people. If they don't like it, they're going to tell 100 or more.
That's right.
So in this, I mean, people rant and rave on social media and everything else. It's like, yeah.
Well, Seeds Here Now, I think, is doing pretty damn good. They got a great site also, which is nice because, as we all know, good website, right? Fucking important shit.
That's what
So
Sam
people
said.
to know what's going on.
That's what Sam
That's
said.
what Sam said.
That's what Sam said.
No, but they have so many good breeders. I've been really impressed. And right off the
Oh, yeah.
bat, I've been like, holy shit, those guys have got it going on.
Yeah, no, they make sure that people that come on and are reputable, and and he has to deal with all the drama between all the different breeders. So it's kind of like there's some people he just can't take on board because there's too much drama.
Sure.
Right.
And if they can't get their own, can't play well in the playground.
Yeah,
they
you can't play,
can't
yeah.
come to school. So. But if you want to get reputable edibles here in Colorado and in Nevada and California, now you can go to iloveincredibles.com, check out their store finder site and see if there's somebody close to you. Flavors on flavors on flavors, all their stuff's always real consistent. In-house growing, which in-house grown product, which makes a huge difference because, as we all know, that's the success. That's what would separate you as an edible company from success and failure is your medicine and your consistency and having the right stuff that actually works. They also have some gummies. They got some. What else they got?
Some extracts.
They got extracts.
Are they not in Oregon yet? You said
No, I don't believe
California, Nevada, Colorado.
I think that's the only states that I know of. They might be. They're definitely moving.
Yeah, they're making moves.
moving and shaking. So, again, their consistency is one of the best things about them. And on top of that, they got every flavor of the rainbow on there.
I won't even make you name them all.
No, I don't. I won't even try. I'm just like,
It's a shit.
I used to have the kid. That kid used to do that. That was.
That was years ago, man. That's been a long time. That was the
been a
first
long-
time I was ever on. We were
Exact-
still making him do every flavor, and that was back at the old building down by
Right.
GYO. Yeah.
Yeah, making him do all the flavors, wear the shock bracelet, whatever.
Yeah,
whatever was clever with him. So.
It's been a while. I'm dating myself.
Right. It's been a while, man.
It's been a while, man.
Way back in history.
Way back.
But yeah, you can go to I Love Incredibles and see what they got, and find out if they're close to you. Also in the studio here, we got guys from New Millennium who,
Dun, dun, dun.
dun, 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 dun. If you don't know, it's swag.
Then you don't know.
It's total swag. It's the worst thing ever.
But Adam uses it, so
Yeah, I've
it's
been
okay.
using it. That's why my stuff's so swaggy. No, in general, though, it is a pretty damn good nutrient on baseline. And also on top of that, you guys work with Bud Swell, which I talked about earlier. Terrible branding. Great product.
Great
And,
product.
Absolutely.
one of my favorites from before. So that made me easily adjust. And that Green Sensation, the other product that you guys are pushing from Playground, which I think is definitely like if that wasn't in the program, I don't think anybody would have heard of it because that to me seems to be like their silver bullet. Which
It is. That's their yes.
And so if you're not familiar with that and you got some angles to get some Playground in your program,
Were you familiar with them? Just real quick, were you familiar with them at all before you came back over? Yeah. I mean, everybody
and
is.
To me,
right
it was
there,
like
yeah.
it was like
It's like,
saying-
duh.
It's like House and Garden. I'd be like, so you want me to use what now? Like the fucking fizzy whiz things that you throw in? I don't think so. And you'd be like, dude, you got to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, so it was kind of like that almost because for me it was like, but that Terra that they have, I got the samples of is really nice. That
Yep.
So what was it called? Terra Supreme or something like that, or Terra?
It's the new peat product you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I
gonna
got
be
a couple testers of that, and it was pretty damn interesting. I was like, plants look super happy.
good. Good to hear. Yeah, we've
Like
been
waxy,
testing a little bit
like
ourselves. It's good.
extra waxy. It
And
was
it's definitely not your same old peat moss. I mean, you can agree with that.
It's not the dust that you get in most.
Well,
most
the
peat
fact that
products.
there was actually because Bo did the whole thing. He showed me the peat balls.
Take it all the way down.
Yeah, pulled out check out my balls. He did the whole story. He did it all, and I was like, yeah. So and then I started to look at him. I was like, holy shit, those are fucking nutrient packed little things because it's just like perfect little round peat ball that a root's gonna hit and just be like, what? You know what I mean? It's not the same, and that's not including the peat itself. I mean, that's just extra bonus points. Velvety and nice feel to it, and I was all,
We went down.
We went down.
But we're still being recorded on the audio.
So we will still talk like pretend like we're not talking, but we'll talk, but we won't say anything so we don't lose anything. It's just a bunch of jibber jabber.